First of all, thank you so very much for agreeing to have this conversation with me, for the people that are watching my channel, and for everyone who is into permaculture and wants to hear a bit of wisdom from you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. I was thinking that you have impacted over the years the lives of so many people, like with your videos, with your online and live PDCs, with your walkthroughs, which are amazing when you're on properties and you show people around. And I wanted to know, what does permaculture mean for Jeff the man? So beyond the teacher, beyond the designer, what is permaculture in its essence for you?
It gives me an intimate connection and an intimate connection to the universe at large. So I feel like I'm in a relationship with the largest possible thing I can be engaged with. So I feel connected, and that makes me feel kind of nice and comfortable. It makes me feel assured that there are very large connections that you can relax with. You can feel quite comfortable.
It sounds to me like it's a connection with the creative force of the universe, what you are describing.
Yeah, it probably is. You can say it in those terms, but it's really allows you to relax, right, and enjoy the situation. It reduces your stress. You don't worry about anything much, and you enjoy the challenge when it comes to you. And the main thing you're comfortable with is the fact that time is infinite and systems are infinite. They just go on forever. You're never going to know it all, and you're never going to experience it all, but you're quite comfortable with what you do experience, and you appreciate it all. So I'm not sentimental about anywhere in particular. I'm more sentimental about the whole, everything.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds very deep. So I am also curious, what would a world designed by permaculture look like to you? So if we applied the ethics, the patterns in not just on farms, on land, but in cities, in school, in education, in politics, how do you think the world would look like?
Well, it would look more beautiful than we can presently imagine, more abundant, more diverse, and happier and healthier. There would be a moderation of population, naturally, would just naturally happen. And I think that's where humanity would find its full potential and its place in reality. It's almost like a heavenly vision,
Okay.
almost like heaven on earth, where everything feels very comfortable, abundant, healthy, happy, peaceful, and very, very limited stress at all. So all our rivers would run really clean and full of life. All our environments would be very lush, and humans would be the most positive element on earth. We would be the most engaged, and we would be more positive than any other element. We would be the essential component for this to happen. And it won't happen until we take that position. We're out of position, and we need to work with intention to get ourselves in position. And that's what feels good about permaculture when you're involved with it. It feels like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. I can get all these indicators that the right thing is what I'm doing. All these alignments keep happening, which are kind of strange, but not really. You're kind of magnetizing towards the greater energy out there, the life energy.
Okay. And what do you think is stopping people from getting there to such a point? Like, what do most people misunderstand, or what do they lack on the way?
Mostly they lack courage.
Okay.
Courage comes in all kinds of forms, and they haven't yet heard the message of what's possible. And if they have, they haven't quite engaged with it yet. They know it's there, but it hasn't quite germinated with them, right? They're ready. A lot of people are ready to germinate into the full engagement, but they just lack the courage to move forward. And more of us are setting an example that it's okay, you can do it. We're doing it together. Come on the journey. It's an enjoyable journey. And when you do, you find there's a lot more people involved than you think.
I was thinking that in the present moment, like we have all these issues in the world with poverty, with hunger, with the exploitation or over-exploitation of resources. People lack decent shelter. There's a lot of suffering in the world, and I wanted to know from your perspective, what role can permaculture play in this global picture?
Well, permaculture helps you navigate to those better positions. It gives you positive answers and solutions to these issues. You've got to just be prepared to move in our direction and use this design science approach. The landscape will sort people out, as it always does. So, and on the larger scale, the weather will sort people. I mean, ultimately the weather will level everything.
Yeah.
So it's starting to have, big effects. And there may be lots of debate why that's happening, how it's happening. It doesn't really matter. It is happening. The landscape and the environments are degrading, and there's only a certain point where we can't carry on behaving the way we are. So I think the message that we're giving people is being voiced in many ways. That there's a lot of good messages happening out there in the information age, the media age, where people are drawn to permaculture because of the messages that are out there. There's so many issues. Is there something that gives us some positive approach to dealing with this, that covers everything, covers all the bases? And then they find permaculture and, oh, here's something that has solutions for all the problems all at once. That's what people say when they find us. They say, well, I didn't realise you were there. I didn't realise the message was out there. And when I found it, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, so that surprise and wow factor in people when they hear about what permaculture can do and how they can...
So that message in itself is being shared.
Okay.
And people are saying, oh, I heard that's what you heard. I heard the same. I experienced the same thing. Like more and more people. So they're testimonials of people's experience.
I am curious, or I would like to know, is there a project that you could share in very big lines with us where you saw permaculture changing the landscape, changing communities, transforming lives, not just the lives of people, but all that inhabits a land area? Because you've traveled all over the world, you've been involved in so many projects. On the top of your head, if you have one, like when you saw this massive transformation or such transformations that reaffirmed in you that the work you are doing is the one you were meant to do it.
Yeah. So I worked in Brazil, initially for a non-profit and then for the government, working with colonists, and many people came. Some people came from the favela movements. So we ended up teaching 5 different courses through Brazil. And the last course I taught, some of the students of my students, not just my students, but the students my students have produced as teachers, came and presented to us. And I saw quite a few variations. Brazil's a big country with lots of different types of landscape and a very large population. And students presented work in the favela movements, presented work in inner city work, presented work out in rural areas, and all of the projects were outstanding. And these were not just my students, they were students of my students. And at that point, I knew I was redundant in Brazil. I could go home. There was no point in me coming back. If I was to go back to Brazil, then it would be for me to learn about permaculture in Brazil, because they'll be able to tell me more about it than I know. They were already engaged, they were already producing good design work, and they were extending the work exponentially through generations of students. And big populations are going to breed fast. So at that point, I could see my redundancy, which is what I was working for. And the same when I taught in Guatemala. I came back exactly a year later, and I arrived at night. I woke and I was staying on the project in accommodation we designed the year before, was already up. I got up in the morning early and I walked out into the demonstration site, and I knew I was redundant straight away. I knew from what I could see, they understood exactly what we taught the year before, and they'd implemented, and it was a great result. And I knew that was extending out through the local community with the local people. I had to teach the course anyway, but really I could have just gone home right there. I knew I was redundant in Guatemala. So different sites, different situations, suddenly you hit the right people and it takes off, and you can time scout forward looking at, oh, I can see the result expanding. I'm not needed, I can leave. So those are some of the most profound things that I've experienced. It's not that I've been there for the development, it's I've seen the potential run away with itself, and it's like, okay, I'm not needed, I'm done. Yeah.
Well, I'd say you are always needed in any place you end up being, but that sounds indeed like very heart-touching to have that realization that people have taken on board what you have given them and put it to such good use and practice and passed it forward. So it's like a snowball effect. There is a first line of people, and then the second one, and the third one, and it just keeps expanding, yes, and becomes a larger and larger, like, living organism.
Not everywhere is easy, so often as you get a result, they're going to ask you to go and try and get a result in more and more difficult situations. So you end up in emergency aid, or you end up in refugee crisis situations, war zones, and that's always a lot more difficult. So the results are a bit slower.
I can only imagine how.
So, 10 years or 20 years to get the same sort of result.
Yeah, I can imagine. There must be a lot of suffering involved also in this type of situations.
There's a lot of disruption and very little support, and people have just daily lives consume most of people's energy. So it's slow, but it still happens. So we're getting results in the Middle East, which has taken at least 10 years to really start, and now 20 years later we're getting some profound results. But it's taken that bit longer because they're in situations of hardship and political upheaval.
Okay. What do you think each and every person that wants to do something, wants to bring its, contribution, to bring its contribution in regeneration, in building a better future, what do you think is the most important thing they should understand about permaculture?
Well, you need to start small and start with achievable projects and learn from the garden that you put in. Learn from the small systems. It's usually a garden because it gives you the best feedback of energy in to energy out. And realize that you have to start like that because you need to experience the journey, right? And don't be worried that you're doing such a small thing. This is like your foundation start. So keep learning. It will accelerate, but don't try and start too big and too dramatic. And just realise that it all starts from there. Everybody starts from a very small beginning and it expands to wherever you want it to go, really. I mean, you can keep saying yes, I'll go and help people. I'll teach, I'll consult, I'll design, wherever I think I can get a result. But don't work somewhere that you don't think you can actually do it. Don't guess with people. If you know, I'm pretty sure I can get a result here, I can help, I can get, you know, a good job done, then keep saying yes. If you want a long journey, if you want an exciting life, right? If you think you can achieve it, keep saying yes, and you'll build your experience as you go. And in the end, you'll be able to say yes to almost anything. And that means you're in for an adventure. It's a big world out there with many varieties of landscape and climate and culture. And if you want to keep helping, just keep saying yes. If you believe it, the world will keep opening up opportunities for you. That's all I've ever done.
Okay.
Just keep saying yes, where I can.
I often get a question, actually two particular questions, and I'll start with one of them. From people when I either talk to them about permaculture or when I post different information on permaculture, a lot of people ask me, okay, but where do I start? You know, like, what if I have a plot of land? What can I do to start applying permaculture? And I'm thinking that maybe it is a question that is in the minds of many. So it would be great to hear your perspective on this question, regardless that it is a small urban, suburban, or a larger rural piece of land. How can people start to apply permaculture to build into the regeneration, the sustainability, the abundance? Where do they begin, or where should they begin?
Well, if they can take a design course, that's the ultimate, because then you understand the concept. But apart from that, the first thing you need to do is look at your climate, and climate's reasonably constant in that you know which time's winter and summer and which way the wind blows, because you might have to wind shelter. Some climates you don't, but a lot of climates you do. You need to make sure you're not exposed to too much wind, but you also have to have a certain amount of sun. So sun is a big driver. So how much sun do you get, and can you work out your sun angles? Now you can do all that online today. What is the midday, midwinter sun angle? Or what is the midday, midsummer sun angle? And are you getting enough sun? So are you sheltered from the wind? Are you getting enough sun? What kind of slopes do you have? How steep is it? And then what's your water supply? Where's the water coming from? Now, once you've got that, then you can look at, well, what is the plant cover and what is the plant response in your area? What type of weeds grow? Like, what's the response to damage? Or is the area you're going to work got no weeds, it's really lush? But is there a weed response? Because weeds are just gathering organic matter with the sun's energy in a very easy way. And you can learn a lot from the weeds. Once you know that, then you can start designing water, and water will help you capture more organic matter. And then you can start planning with the surplus organic matter, and you've got a free supply of organic matter and water. By designing it the right way, water is something that can cause damage, but if you design it right, it's one of the main things that helps you grow. So you've got sun, weeds for organic matter,
Okay.
and water that's nicely soaking in, you're immediately going in a better direction. And then you need to look at the proximity of things. Where's the best place to put a garden? Hopefully it's close to the house, or it's not too far away, because components like gardens are visited regularly. So you don't want it a long way away, but it still has to be in a reasonably appropriate situation, which is not too steep, it's got plenty of sun, and it's got a reasonable water supply. So you're making these adjustments. Water, access in relation to structural positions. And if you follow a formula like that, you start to realize you're putting together a kind of design approach to what you want to achieve. And that's how we approach design.
Okay.
We just make assessments of a site, and from the assessments we work out where the best place is to position components. And where possible, they help each other. One component helps another component. There's connections, there's lots of connections.
So about what you are saying and the way to approach permaculture, I find it very sound and reasonable, because I have met a lot of people that said, oh, permaculture doesn't work, because they tried to use mulch in their gardens after using the conventional method of growing food with tillage and with bare soil and all sorts of stuff. And then they tried for 1 year and they say, oh, permaculture doesn't work. Or I don't know, maybe they tried a raised bed and they didn't get the results, because they should approach it, as you said, first of all, from understanding what it is about. I often see this happening, that people watch a beautiful video on YouTube, say, and they see there a property, a food forest maybe, a beautiful kitchen garden, and they see it in 10-15 minutes, but they don't get all the observation, all the trial and error that is behind, and the years maybe that are behind those 15 minutes in which they see something and it's like, oh, I want that, I want to have that too. And it's understandable, because it somehow connects to people when they see it, but it's a lot more, and it's quite some effort and in learning and in doing.
They might see it as one thing, like it's mulch gardening. Yeah. And they haven't connected the mulch garden to other supply lines, like, well, you've got to have maybe some natural fertilizer made easily by chickens and things, or whatever. So people see it as like one little thing. They box it up as one little thing. They don't see it as whole design. It is very much all about whole design.
Exactly, they don't see it as whole design. And another thing that people object, or I hear as objection, is, yeah, okay, permaculture works on a small area, on a homestead, a garden, but how do you apply permaculture on 100 hectares or 500 hectares or even larger areas? And I somehow feel that people try an industrial way of growing things and try to make it better with a regenerative approach. And I think that is an issue in itself. I mean, what is your perspective? How do we address this question of how to feed the world? And that the only way to feed the world is with these large-scale systems which are very destructive and damaging to Earth's ecosystem.
Well, if you won't feed the world for very long when you're destroying it at the same time. And the broad monoculture systems with large amounts of machinery and chemicals are not very old. It's quite a new thing. Small farms produce a lot more per square metre, but you have to market it locally, and that's a big difference. So when you get into the larger area, you have to go into forestry. You can't do large area gardens. You can't even do really large rangeland. There's quite large rangeland, but you can do very, very large forestry. Then small gardens have to be intensive and extremely diverse, and you need lots of them, and that's how people get the most healthy food, fresh food, mostly local food. So you have to completely change the way you approach it. You can't make broad acre industrial farming sustainable. It's not possible. And to say you're regenerating something that's never been before doesn't make sense. Regenerating what? This is a brand new way of farming. Regenerating agriculture, where most agriculture in its present form has been a complete failure. Why would you regenerate a failure? Yeah. But you could say, well, we're going to completely redesign agriculture to be more sustainable as it was, and we're going to add extra design elements, which we now have. We have appropriate technology, and we have more diversity in species available to us. They presently aren't marketed, but that needs to change.
Okay, and that would involve also earthworks and
earthworks, but also diversifying what we grow as our supply line. Yeah. We have a very, very small supply line in species diversity, and most places don't take advantage of what can grow, because it may be more difficult to market, or it's not something people are familiar with. Well, to save the world and to have a future, we need to make those changes, and we don't really have a choice. Change or die.
Okay.
The system will change, either in a good way because it wants to, or change because the bad things we're doing are going to collapse. I think that's not going to be a nice way to change. We should change by choice.
Yeah, that's a smart.
We shouldn't be forced to change because things are falling apart. Usually that chaos leads to conflict, which is not nice.
Okay. Yeah, that is very sound and reasonable, like it's common sense. If you could send a pearl of wisdoms or something that you would like the people who will see this interview now and in the future to transmit them a thought, like a seed that will stay there and maybe flourish, what would it be?
Learn how this works. Learn design science, ethical design science, for yourself and for your grandchildren. And always have fun while you're doing it. Realise it's a very enjoyable thing to engage in, because while you're having fun, you're actually healthier as well. This will make you healthy and pass health on to other people and the future generations. It's very important. So it's all about design, ethics, science, but also enjoying what we do. Enjoy the journey, because it's a great journey, and then lots of us doing it together. We're all enjoying the journey. Get more people on board. Let's enjoy the journey together.
Yes, I agree with that. Jeff, I want to thank you so much. I appreciate so much you taking the time to answer these few questions. I think they have so much message and so much potential for people and wisdom. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for these wonderful days with the water harvesting course here in Tereni. And where can people find more about your work? I mean, about your new projects. You are on YouTube, you are on Facebook, but I don't know, for the newest
Discover
things.
Permaculture
Okay.
is one of my connections online. And look out for the Jeff Lawton podcast, which is about to come out.
That sounds amazing.
So, yeah. And
the next PDCs, in case people want to...
there's a permanent online PDC being launched in a few weeks, and then we have a regular event online PDC, and then on our websites you have many PDCs coming up. Right? You'll see them online. So we have all sorts of courses online being advertised all the time. We're trying our best.
I encourage everyone to check them out because they are life-changing. I can say that without any shadow of a doubt. Okay. Thank you again so much. I wish you all the best and success in everything that in all your projects, everything that you do.
Yeah, and
you are an inspiration.
I would like to tell everybody that Emma's an inspiration as well, and stay in touch. She's going to change a lot of things. Right.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Thank you.